What's good? It's Russell King here. Today we're going to be doing a recap and a review of NXT, of the recent episode of NXT. The NXT after Stand and Deliver. We're going to jump straight into it. This episode starts off with Roxanne Perez as your new NXT Women's Champion after she just got defeating Lyra Valkyria at this Stand and Deliver this past weekend. Starts off with a promo from Roxanne Perez. She ends up saying that she says that, "Are you guys really surprised?" And then as she's talking, the crowd is saying, "You deserve it." She ends up responding to the crowd, ends up saying that she tells the crowd to shut up and says, "I don't need your 'you deserve it' chance because where was this a year ago?" Then she ends up saying that what happened at Stand and Deliver was justice. Justice for the woman who went a year without her title. She ends up mentioning Lyra Valkyria's arm, mentions how she attacked her arm. She knew that was a weakness and how that she didn't feel sorry for attacking her arm, that she was willing to do anything to win her championship back. Then she ends up saying that then, as she keeps talking, she was mentioning the arm. The crowd ends up saying, "Shut the hell up, shut the hell up, shut the hell up." Then Roxanne ends up responding, says that, "I'm going to keep talking because I am the champion, so you guys can shut the hell up." I really love that. I really love this more aggressive side of Roxanne Perez. We needed this more aggressive side of Roxanne Perez because her as a babyface it wasn't bad, but it was getting a little stale. And I really love this more aggressive side. And her mic skills has really improved since being a heel, her being on this more aggressive person. I really love this. But then she ends up saying that, then she ends up saying, "Lyra, you call yourself an honorable champion. I say you're stupid, pathetic, and embarrassing. No matter how I did it, I'm here as your 2 times NXT's women's champion. Now there's nothing no one can do to take the title away from me because everything is now on my terms and I dare anyone to tell me otherwise. The next time I lose the title is when I give it up when I get drafted." So Roxanne Perez has confirmed that she will get drafted in 3 weeks. The draft is in 3 weeks. So very interested to see where she gets drafted. I'm very excited for her to get drafted. So it looks like no one's going to beat her for the title, which I'm not mad at. I love that she got the title, and I'm very excited to see what she does on the main roster. And she ends up ending off saying, "So enjoy to see this while you can." But then we end up getting Lyra Valkyria's theme music comes out. She comes out with a microphone, and she ends up saying, "Is this what we're in store for? You've been champion for 2 days. And what and you he said and she said, and what? You're just packing your bags and leave? Are you too good for NXT now?" She ends up saying, "Stay on Raw, stay on SmackDown, but the championship stays with her because I want my rematch and I want it tonight." Roxanne responds, says, "Come on, you're not medically cleared to even compete. Your arm is hanging by a thread. Do you really want to waste your rematch here?" Tatum Paxley comes out from out of the crowd. She's randomly crawls up from out the crowd, and she says, "Lyra might not be ready, but I am." She goes to Lyra Valkyria excited and happy. Lyra ends up saying that she appreciates how much she sticks up for her. She appreciates her. And then Lyra ends up saying that she ends up apologizing for Saturday because after she lost the championship, they had like a little segment where Lyra was basically mad at Roxanne and kind of lashed out at her. She ends up apologizing for that, but she ends up saying that, "I'm good now." Tatum ends up responding and says, "Are you good? Are you sure?" Then Tatum grabs Lyra's head, attacks her, and then she attacks her and hit her. She ends up slamming her towards the steel steps, and then she ends up grabbing her head and ends up saying that it's not yours anymore. It doesn't belong to you. And the refs have to come and break it up. So it looks like we're getting a Lyra Valkyria and Tatum Paxley feud. I'm really enjoying this. We knew the turn was eventually going to happen. Now I still don't know if Tatum's a heel because the way she acts, she still acts like she cares for Lyra. So maybe she's not a heel. She's still a baby face. She's just having a reason for why she did what she did. But I'm really excited to see that feud. Tatum Paxley being that super obsessed woman who's very obsessed with Lyra, willing to do anything for her. The fact that she attacked her was very surprising. It surprised me, I'm going to be honest, and I'm very excited to see what happened. After that happens, Roxanne was about to exit the ring, but then Natalia comes out. Last night on Monday Night Raw, Natalia did say she was going to come to NXT after their back and forth, after Roxanne was kind of, being the arrogant, cocky woman that she is now, being a little disrespectful to Natalia. So Natalia ends up making her appearance. Comes out, and she ends up saying that she ends up coming out to the ring. They have a little promo. She says, "Don't think I forgot how rude you've been to me. I've forgotten more about professional wrestling than you're going to learn. But there's one championship I never won in the WWE, and that's the women, the WWE NXT Women's Championship." And she says, and basically she wants an opportunity. Roxanne responds, says, "No, that he said, nope, that I'm good on that. I don't think that's going to happen." She said, "This is my show, my title. I make the rules." Basically, that's not going to happen. Then we get Ava, the general manager, comes out. She ends up saying, "I'm sorry, Roxanne. That's not how things operate." And she basically confirmed the match. She said, "This match is going to happen. So Roxanne and Natalia is going to happen. It's going to happen on today's episode." Then after that, Roxanne tries to attack Natalia. Natalia ends up ducking the punch from her, and then Natalia ends up getting into the sharpshooter position, but Perez ends up escaping, and then they end up going their separate ways. Then we get a quick little backstage segment between Nathan Frazier and Axiom. Axiom and Nathan Frazier is getting interviewed, and Nathan and Axiom basically talk about their stand and deliver match, talk about how they were so close and how they want to be NXT championship. But then they get to the point where they actually end up teasing a potential breakup towards the end. They end up saying that Nathan ends up saying that if we can't win this match, it looks like we're going to have to go our separate ways. And they end up saying that it's been a hell of a ride. And then they wish the best of luck up in terms of their match against their match later on with Braun Breaker and Baron Corbin. Next up, we end up getting Chase U segment where Andre Chase ends up congratulating and showing appreciation and thanking Kalani Jordan and Fallon Henley for their stand and deliver match, picking up the victory over JC Jane, Izzy Dane, and Kiana James. Yeah, those three. He ends up giving them a Chase U certificate, and then it gets interrupted by JC Jane. JC Jane comes in and says, "I'm not here to fight. I'm here to ask the professor a question. After you guys are done with your victory party, are you going to tell Thea Hell the real reason I had to bail Chase U out of debt, considering it was all of her fault?" I was very interested to see how this goes. I'm like, it's her fault. Like, how is this her fault? She ends up saying that Andre Chase. Oh well, my fault. I'm misreading something. Andre Chase was trying to get JC to leave because Andre Chase didn't want, JC Chain to admit the truth. She ends up telling the truth, and so saying JC ends up mentioning the package that Rizzo brought to Andre Chase a while back. This was like months ago, and she ends up JC Jane ends up saying that she ends up talking to Thea Hell, ends up saying, "Do you remember in July at the Great American Bash, remember the white towel? Your professor placed a bet on you to win the NXT Women's Championship, but instead of watching you suffer, he threw the towel. Seems like this idiot cares more about losers like you than his own university." So I didn't start watching NXT until late 2023, around August. So I didn't watch the Great American Bash. I didn't watch it, so I gotta see what happened. But that's what JCJ ended up saying. JCJ ended up saying that so much for your rebellious stage, treating him like garbage. Turns out you were the problem. Thea Hell, not believing it, she ends up saying that's not true. Is it? Andre Chase, ends up admitting that, yeah, it is true. But he says that when it comes to betting on the university or you, I'm going to bet on you every single time. Thea Hell is not happening, and she runs out. So I'm very interested to see how they pick up on it. Now I will play devil's advocate here. It's still not Thea Hell's fault, technically. Yeah, based off what I heard, I didn't watch the match, but based off what they said, it looks like Thea Hell was basically going to lose the match, and Chase U ended up throwing in the white towel. It's not really Thea Hell's fault. It's still Andre Chase's fault, if we're being real, because he placed the bet. Like, Thea Hell didn't ask him to place the bet. He just placed the bet, and it just didn't work out. So it's not really Thea Hell's fault. technically, but I get what they're going with this. I do like the story they're going with this. And I always wonder, how did they get in debt? Because I was not really messing with the whole Chase shoes and debt, and they have to work their way up. I really didn't like that storyline, but now it makes sense to a degree. And I'm very looking forward to how they go. And of course, I already knew they was going to continue the JCJ and Thea Hell feud, so it only makes sense. Next up, we got six women tag. Wait, no, a regular tag team match. I don't know why I got that confused. We got Fallon Henley versus Kalani Jordan versus Kiana James and Izzy Dame. This was a very solid match, very decent match. The match starts off with Kiana and Izzy attacking Fallon and Kalani during their entrances. They was on the top rope to try to get the advantage, do typical heel work, but they end up failing, and Fallon Henley and Kalani end up getting the advantage. Later on in the match, Kiana and Izzy was dominating a good portion of this match for a good while, trying to separate Kalani from her tag team partner, Fallon Henley, making sure they don't get the hot tag. But eventually, of course, the babyfaces get the hot tag. Kiana had one of Kalani's legs, so Kalani was kind of like hopping around on one leg while Kiana had the other. Kalani ends up doing a backflip to reverse it. Kiana goes for a punch. She ends up doing like a roll to get past her and then doing the hot tag. Fallon Henley ends up getting of course they get the hot tag. Fallon Henley, the baby faces ends up getting momentum. She starts taking everyone out. Then we get to a certain point where Fallon Henley ends up doing a tornado. She did like a tornado. She was towards the top rope, and then she ends up jumping on, I believe, Kiana James. I'm not sure, but she jumps on Kiana James, and it looks like she's doing a tornado DDT, but she ends up spinning her body, landing on her feet into a suplex. That was a very good maneuver. She goes for the pin, but it gets broken up by Izzy Dane. Then Kalani Jordan attacks Izzy Dane and then goes for a tornado DDT, but Izzy Dane ends up reversing it into a slam. Then Izzy Dane is about to kick. After that, Izzy Dane was about to do, I think, her finisher, or she was going for some type of running kick. But Fallon Henley ends up moving Kalani James out the way, and she ends up getting hit with it, which lead to the opportunity of Kiana James to end up taking advantage of it, and then Kiana James and Izzy Dane end up winning the match. Fallon Henley ends up sacrificing herself to take the hit for Kalani. Then we got a quick segment with a new NXT wrestler who's going to be debuting. Javon Evans had a little quick promo package showing the things, showing his matches. He was on NXT Level Up. I don't watch NXT Level Up, but the package got me excited. I saw he's a high flyer. He's super athletic, super agile, and I was very excited to see his match. Then we got a quick little segment with No Quarter Catch Crew and the family. This segment was very weird because it just felt very forced, and I don't understand why this is even a thing. But both people basically kind of insulted each other, and then basically they just want a match in the ring. So we're gonna get the family with Channing Stacks and Lucha Crucifino and two of the members of No Quarter Catch Crew. I don't know their names. The only members I know is Drew Gulak and Charlie Dempsey, but Drew Gulak wasn't there because of certain controversies you could look up, but he wasn't there on tonight's show. I forget the other two members of No Quarter Catch Crew. The main ones I know is Drew Gulak and Charlie Dempsey. Next up, we got Javon Evans versus Strips in the faction of Out the Mud. This was a really good match. I already knew Strips was a really good wrestler because he's a really good high flyer as well. This was a really good match. And Javon Evans, man, that boy, he won me over with this match. I'm very excited to see what he do. But this match starts off with Strips ends up getting the quick advantage early on. He ends up attacking Javon Evans' leg on the top rope from behind, and he ends up dominating for a good portion of this match. But then Strips ends up being, the typical heel, starts trash talking. Javon Evans ends up getting a comeback. And then Javon Evans did this really cool thing off the ropes where he jumps onto the ropes and then he does like he ends up contorting his body into a flying kick. It was very insane. Then he ends up doing a Cody cutter, but this Cody cutter was ridiculous. After he did the the flying kick off the ropes, he goes into a Cody cutter, but his Cody cutter, I'm sorry, is ridiculous. Like he jumps so high in the air, it's crazy the amount of hang time. His Cody cutter is way better than Cody's, and Cody's Cody cutter is not bad, but like his stuff is insane. Like the amount the airtime he got on it was ridiculous. I suggest y'all watch this match, but yeah, he ends up getting that same Cody cutter, and then after the Cody cutter, he ends up doing a springboard clothesline onto Strips. Strips ends up getting out the ring. He's with his out the mud members. I forget the two guys' names. I don't really care for them because they suck. No offense. They're just too green for me. They're too green, and I don't like their gimmick. I understand what they're going for, but me personally, it don't work for me. They're just too green. They're not good characters. They're not good in the ring, so I don't really care for them. But he's outside with his own group, and then Evans ends up doing a suicide dive onto the two members. I don't know their name, but Strips ends up moving out the way. Um, Strips tries to take advantage of him not getting hit, with the suicide dive, but it ends up backfiring. Um, but then Strips ends up doing a suplex. Strips ends up doing a suplex later on in the match, and then he's finna go for a signature moonsault, but he ends up missing. Then Evans ends up getting a flying knee, and then he ends up doing a three. Then Evans ends up going to the top rope and did this weird, very. It was like a 360 splash where he contorted his body. It was very. It was. I can't really explain it, but Evans got some. He got some bounce to him. Super athletic, very like he got a sane bounce to him. This match really hooked me, and he's only 19 apparently. So the fact that he's only 19 is crazy. Like it's ridiculous how good he is already in the ring, bro. And I'm very excited to see more of what he does on NXT. But next up, we get a segment with Ridge Holland. The reporter ends up asking Ridge Holland, why did he attack Joe Gacy with the chair, instead of deliver? Ridge Holland ends up saying that he needs to apologize to Joe and that he just lost it. He don't know where his head was at. Joe Gacy came out of nowhere from the curtain, comes out and says that it's okay, Ridge. I understand. You went from being a WWE superstar inside the ring to the biggest show of the year to being a panelist, not being in the ring. That got to mess with your head. Ridge Holland gets a little frustrated, walks off. Then we get two members of the LWO. He walks off and hits like this little corner. Two members of the LWO is right there. And Joaquin Wilde ends up saying that we knew the Ridge Holland that dominated on SmackDown. So we're not believing in this apology tour. Then Ridge Holland walks off, ends up shoving Cruz del Toro, and then ends up slamming the door. But as he slams the door, Cruz del Toro tries to either he tries to talk to Ridge or go after Ridge, and ends up slamming Cruz del Toro hand. Comes back, and then Joaquin Wilde was like, "Oh, so that was on accident too, huh?" And then Ridge Holland, it seems like he did it on accident, but we don't know. But Ridge Holland had like this shock, surprise, guilty look, like I didn't mean to do it. So I don't know what they're building here, because like it looked like they was doing a heel turn, but now it looks like he's still a babyface. I'm not understanding, and his logic really didn't make sense. Like you just lost it. Like I'm not really getting it. Don't understand what's the plan for Ridge Holland. I really don't care. I was kind of interested when they said it was a potential heel turn, but now looks like he's going to be a babyface, and now I don't care anymore. Like, because Ridge Holland, he's not bad. He's just okay. Like, he's just okay. Like, he's okay in the ring, okay on the mic. He's just, in character-wise, he's not that exciting. So it's like, there's nothing to really gravitate towards. So I was really interested to see a heel Ridge Holland, because I never seen him as a heel. He's always been a babyface as I watched him. But next up, we got Roxanne and Natalya. This was actually a good match. Better than I expected, because typically Natalya matches don't last long. And typically their swash matches are very quick. But this was actually a really good match. The beginning of the match starts off with a quick back and forth with rest holds, arm drags. But then it starts picking up. We got to a spot where Roxanne ends up slapping Natalya in the face, and she slapped her hard, and then Natalya slapped her right back super hard. Roxanne ends up going towards the ring with the slap, and then Natalia ends up celebrating a bit, goes to the ring, but then Roxanne ends up clotheslining. Um, no, no. Natalia ends up clotheslining Perez outside the ring after the slap. She ends up parading and celebrating, but then Roxanne gets the upper hand, ends up pushing Natalia into the steel steps, and then ends up suplexing her on the outside. They eventually get back in the ring. It's a quick back and forth. I think it went. No, it didn't go on commercial break, but quick back and forth. Natalia gets the upper hand. Natalia tries to go for. Then we get to a sequence where Natalia tries to go for a sharpshooter. Perez ends up reversing it into a roll up pin. Natalia kicks out the roll up pin. Then she ends up pinning Roxanne after she kicks out. Tries to go for the sharpshooter again. Perez reverse into a crossface. Then Natalia shifts her body into a pin. Roxanne kicks out of the pin. And then Roxanne ends up kicking Natalia in the stomach. Goes for her finisher, the pop rocks. Natalia reverses it and then puts Roxanne into the sharpshooter. That sequence was crazy. It was like back, forth, back and forth, back and forth. The sequence was very good. I really love that sequence. Roxanne's in sharpshooter. She's struggling. She's struggling. She's trying to get out of it. She eventually ends up being able to grab to the ropes. She crawls outside. Natalia is beating up on Roxanne, puts Roxanne in the ring, and then Natalia is about to go back inside the ring. But then you get Lola Vice. She interferes, and she didn't do much. She ends up just kicking Natalia. I think she kicked her in the leg, and then Natalia gets in the ring, wobbled, hobbling over her leg, and then Roxanne was able to hit her finisher, the pop rocks, and ends up picking up the victory. Um, I'm assuming this feud is going to be over. I'm assuming the Lola Vice and Natalia is going to continue their little feud because last week Natalia ended up beating Lola Vice. No, Lola Vice. No. Natalia did end up beating Lola Vice, if I'm not mistaken. Or did they have a match? I know Lola Vice ended up having a match with Carmen Petrovich. I remember that. And I remember Natalia ended up coming out of the aid of Carmen. But I'm assuming that feud is going to continue. But then after the match, we got a segment where Lola Vice is talking to the camera, talking to a reporter, but we couldn't see the reporter. The reporter was behind the camera. She ended up saying, "Why did you attack Natalia?" Lola Vice said, "Because I can." And she said that I'm sick and tired of waiting for my opportunities, so I'm making my own. Lola ends up saying that she ends up saying her eyes is on her eyes are everywhere. And my eyes is on the NXT Championship, and I can't wait for the NXT North American Women's Championship. Then Natalia ends up attacking her from behind. They have a little brawl. The referees had to separate them. So obviously they're going to continue this feud, which I'm not mad at. It's basically the new generation versus the old. The new generation being very disrespectful towards the old. The new generation feel like they're better than the old. I kind of like it's kind of like old heads versus youngins. Like I kind of like this feud. I ain't gonna lie. Next up, we got the family versus No Quarter Catch Crew. I am not gonna go in depth on this because this was a decent match, but I really don't feel like there's really nothing much to explain here. Because it's not really a rivalry. It's not a feud. This is filler. This is basically filler. So there's no reason to really go in depth there. The family end up winning. Cheney Snacks and Luca Crucifino end up winning the match. Next up, we got Oba Family. He had a promo segment. Oba Family ends up just saying the typical, how dominant he is. Talked about the NXT Stand and Deliver match. Talked about how, he came out victorious. He's dominant, all that. After it looks like the promo is finished, he raises his NXT championship. The lights go off, and then you hear Ivar's theme music hit, and Ivar shows up. Now, the thing is, Ivar did not show up in his Viking gimmick. He's wearing regular clothes, which I kind of like. And during this promo, I kind of like Ivar. Like, I always liked Ivar, but the Viking gimmick kind of makes me not be able to take him seriously. I could take him seriously in this because his promo skills are not bad, and he's wearing regular clothes. He looks like a regular human being, which I enjoyed, which I'm hoping this is a sign that they're getting rid of the Viking gimmick, but they still have the Viking theme song. So I don't know, but I'm glad he's on NXT because he does some great work on the main roster. But I'm going to get into the promo, but Ivar comes out, and Ivar ends up saying that, "I can tell by the look on your face you didn't expect to see me tonight. The whole world is talking about your match that happened Saturday," and said that he loves the chaos of the match, and there was he loves the chaos of the match, three meaty men going at it, and says that Oba, that's the type of fight he looks for. The crowd was chanting meat after he said three big meaty men. The crowd was chanting meat, love that. And then Oba says, "What do you?" Oba says, basically like, get to the point. What do you want? Ivar said that when watching the match, he felt jealous of Ivar, but not only because of the championship, because I wanted to be, I wanted to be in that fight. And he says, as I look you down, I know I'm the man who could chop you down and take the NXT North American Championship from you. Oba just laughs it off, and says, we'll see. Ivar ends up stopping Oba Femi because Oba Femi was about to walk out the ring. He ends up stopping Oba Femi, ends up saying, yeah, we'll see about that. Oba ends up getting mad, does a headbutt, but then Ivar recovers, ends up kicking Oba Femi, and then Ivar ends up jumping off of the middle rope and ends up slamming his body onto Oba Femi. And Ivar ends up rising tall. Obafemi was knocked out on the ground, which is the first time that has happened. Because typically, when there's a brawl between a guy and Obafemi always rises tall. So the fact that Ivar was able to do it, very impressive. And I don't now. This feud is going to be very interesting. I don't see Obafemi losing. It just doesn't make sense. But Ivar is a interesting character, and I'm ready to see more promos because Ivar is a very good worker. The match is going to be a banger. Ivar is very good in the ring. For his size, it's amazing what he can do. But very excited for this feud. Next up, we got Jada Parker versus Brinley Reese. This match was very good, but there's nothing more to this match. This is just a match that was just thrown on there. There's no story to really tell. Jada Parker put on a good performance, and Brinley Reese too. They both put on a good performance, which made me a little bit more higher on. I was already high on Jada Parker, but this made me a little bit more higher on Brinley Reese because I already like her character with her being this super happy-go-lucky, energetic girl. But Jada Parker ends up picking up the victory. Nothing more to really say here. Next up, we got the NXT Tag Team titles on the line. Braun Breaker and Baron Corbin versus Nathan Frazier and Axiom. Nathan Frazier and Axiom are getting their rematch for the NXT Tag Team titles, and they're trying to get their last shot to see can they finally beat Braun Breaker and Baron Corbin. This match was very good. This match was great. You can make a debate that arguably this was better than the NXT Stand and Deliver match, which I thought was really good. But this match might be better. This match starts out very well. But we get this moment where Nathan Frazier and Axiom are both doing suicide dives. Nathan does a suicide dive on Baron Corbin. Axiom does a suicide dive on Braun Breaker. They go back in the ring. They do it again. Nathan on Baron Corbin do a suicide dive. Then Axiom do a suicide dive on Braun Breaker. Then we get Axiom ends up going back in the ring, goes on the top rope, ends up doing a backflip onto Braun Breaker and Baron Corbin, wiping them out. Then we end up getting Axiom. We're getting a back and forth between Baron Corbin, I believe, and Axiom. Axiom ends up getting ends up tagging Nathan Frazier. Nathan Frazier ends up doing a springboard drop kick to Baron Corbin and Braun Breaker at the same time. That was a very sick move. Then he tries to do another springboard, but Braun Breaker ends up catching him, lifts him up, and ends up doing a slam. No, I misremember that. Braun Breaker catches Nathan Frazier. Yeah, he ends up catching Nathan Frazier. Lifts him up, tries to do a slam, but Nathan Frazier ends up countering it into a tornado DDT. That was a very sick maneuver. I really like that. After that, he tags Axiom, and then Axiom ends up hitting a frog splash. Then Nathan Frazier ends up doing a 450 splash onto Braun Breaker, but Baron ends up breaking the pin. Baron Corbin. Then we get a sequence of Baron Corbin and Axiom, Baron Corbin and Nathan. I think they was going back and forth. Wait, I'm misremembering. After the break, Baron Corbin ends up breaking the pin. After that, everyone's trying to recover. Baron Corbin ends up grabbing Nathan Frazier and ends up start choking him out. You got Axiom on the top rope, and he tries to jump onto Braun Breaker. Braun Breaker ends up catching him mid-air, ends up slamming him instantly. The moment he caught him, he slammed him as he caught him. That was a very sick maneuver. Then he picks Axiom up, does another slam, pins him, and then kicks out. Everyone's shocked. Braun Breaker is surprised. They're like, how did this match not end? Braun Breaker is signaling to Baron Corbin that they're about to. He ends up telling him to go up. So I'm because he was trying to do a certain move with Baron Corbin having one of them on their shoulders because they kept trying to pull this move off. Braun ends up tagging Corbin. Baron ends up lifting Axiom on his shoulders. Axiom ends up reversing it and ends up tossing Baron Corbin into Braun Breaker, who was on the top rope, which lead to Axiom ends up being able to get the tag to Nathan, and Nathan ends up doing a drop kick on Braun Breaker, who was on the top rope. Baron Corbin then tries to attack. Wait, he actually did. Baron Corbin ends up doing a spinning body. It was a weird spinning body slam. It was very impressive, but ends up doing like a regular body slam, but ends up doing like spinning him and Axiom while doing it. Then he tries to lift Nathan on his shoulders, and then Braun Breaker ends up doing a British Bulldog from the top rope while he had Nathan Frazier on his shoulders. That was very impressive. Baron Corbin goes for the pin, but Axiom ends up kicking Baron Corbin in the face. Nathan tries to do a suicide dive. Then we get, after that, Baron Corbin goes to the outside. Nathan Frazier tries to do a suicide dive onto Baron Corbin, but Baron Corbin ends up catching him and ends up slamming his head onto the steel steps. Then Baron Corbin enters the ring, body slams Axiom, picks him up, tries to do it in a daze, but Axiom ends up reversing the end of days. Then, as he lands on his feet, Braun Breaker tries to go for a spear as Axiom lands on his feet. But the moment Axiom lands on the feet, he immediately super kicks Braun Breaker, which I thought was very impressive. That was dope. Like in real time, that was a very sick like sequence. I really love that. But then after he counters Braun Breaker's spear, after he counters Braun Breaker's spear, Baron Corbin ends up clotheslining Axiom. Then Nathan Frazier ends up super kicking Baron Corbin. Then Braun Breaker ends up doing a jumping knee to Nathan Frazier. Then after he does the jumping knee, Braun goes for the spear. Nathan Frazier ends up jumping over the spear. And then as he jumped over the spear, Braun Breaker almost speared his tag team partner, Baron Corbin. They look at each other. Braun Breaker was like, "Are you okay? Are you all right?" They trying to make sure they're on the same page. But then Axiom ends up drop kicking both of them. And then Nathan Frazier ends up doing the Phoenix Splash onto Baron Corbin for the win. And there you're now your new NXT Tag Team Champions. I really love this match. This match was great. This was amazing. My only question is, why couldn't we just get this match at Stand and Deliver? I don't understand the reason why you had Braun Breaker and Baron Corbin win if you're just going to have them lose this episode. Just going to be honest. It didn't make... Now, the narrative they were going with was Braun Breaker has never won at Stand and Deliver, but did he really need to win that match? Like, I'm not mad at it, but I know there was a little segment that wasn't shown on TV, but Baron Corbin and Braun Breaker ends up basically having like this emotional speech, about their tag team run, how they're friends and all that. And on the title, it says that Braun Breaker gives his farewell. So it looks like that might be his last match because he is going to be in the draft. So this was a way to take the titles off of him, but I feel like they could have just done this as Stand and Deliver. But I'm very happy for Nathan Frazier and Axiom. Really loved them as a tag team. That was amazing. But after the match, we get the Final Testament comes out and attacks him. Karrion Kross, Scarlett, all the members of the Final Testament ends up attacking Nathan Frazier and Axiom. I don't like this, bro. I don't like this. I don't like this. I don't. I get it. WWE typically gets people who either are not over or they don't have really any idea what to do with them on the main roster, so send them to NXT. I don't know what it is about Karrion Kross, but I just don't want him in NXT. Like, I'm interested in Karrion Kross, even though he hasn't been able to get over. But I just feel like they don't belong in NXT. I don't know. But I will say this. The NXT do need more tag teams, and Authors of Pain are a tag team. So, maybe they could build up the tag team division. But right now, I'm not really loving it. But we are at the main event, the last segment. Trick Williams comes out to the ring, gives a promo. He ends up saying that he's appreciating the crowd, mentions, his match, but I'm gonna get to the gist of it. He ends up saying, "Y'all don't see me in this ring in this position without this one man, and that is Carmelo Hayes. The crowd booed, of course. He ends up saying, I may not agree with Carmelo, but one thing remains, Carmelo is him. And that is why I had to show the world and show him who Trick Williams is. And then Trick Williams starts alluding to the champions, the new champions. Talking about is a new era. It mentions, how Cody Rhodes finished his story at WrestleMania. Bailey was able to win the WWE Championship. And then he ends up saying that, he ends up asking, what's next? He said, what's next for me? And he ends up saying, I know what's next for me. And that is going after the Mad Dragon, Ilya Dragunov. And he ends up calling Dragunov out. I was like, come on, I already know you back there. Come on out. Dragunov comes out, ends up giving his flowers to Trick. He ends up saying that, I'm so proud of the superstar that you have become. You have something that no one else has, and you are exactly what this brand needs. Trick says what this brand needs is them to go one-on-one for the NXT championship one last time. Dragunov says, Dragunov ends up saying, you really ends up alluding to, Trick Williams ends up feeling himself. He's a little too cocky, but he says, I understand you just defeated your former best friend Mel. It's understandable. But then he ends up saying, he said, I see that you're hungry for another shot at my NXT championship. And he says, and Ilya says, my answer is no, which I was very shocked. Well, I wasn't really shocked by, but I was curious about the answer. He ends up responding. He said, Trick, you had your time, you had your chance, and you failed. Now it's time for another superstar to get an opportunity. Trick ends up interrupting, ends up saying that, I understand all that. I understand you're the man, but what do I have to do? Who do I have to fight? Who do I have to face to get my opportunity? Because nothing or no one is going to stop him. Dragunov ends up, agreeing and ends up giving him a championship opportunity. He said in 2 weeks I forgot the pay-per-view, because it's going to happen at a pay-per-view if I'm not mistaken. I forgot. It's spring something. I forgot about it. He said he's giving him the championship opportunity in 2 weeks, but he gives a stipulation. He ends up saying that if you lose, you have to leave NXT. And Trick ends up saying that if I can't defeat you, I don't belong in NXT. Trick Williams ends up accepting the challenge. And then Carmelo Hayes comes out, attacks Trick Williams from behind. And he attacks Trick Williams from behind. And then as he attacks him, he gets close to the camera and ends up saying, you're not going to make it to I forgot the exact pay-per-view. It's called Spring something, but he said, you're not going to make it to that pay-per-view, ends up saying, because I'm going to whoop your ass in next week in a steel cage match. So Trick Williams and Carmelo is going to be facing off in a steel cage match. And I'm very excited for that, but I'm very interested to see why Ilya said that Trick has to quit, because I don't really understand. I don't really get why Ilya would make that stipulation. I really don't. Don't really understand it, but with that stipulation, that just means Trick Williams is going to win. There's, especially with Ilya debuting on Raw, Trick Williams is definitely taking that title off Ilya. Just off that alone, that's going to be a big moment. He's taking that title. He's taking that title, and mind you, the draft is 3 weeks away. So the fact that the draft is 3 weeks away, and I think they already confirmed that Ilya will be in the draft. So if Ilya is going to be in the draft, they're going to have him lose before he gets drafted, which I'm happy about. Thank you. I'm happy that they're allowing the person because Ilya is basically at the top. He's at the top, but he's such a dominant force that someone needs to beat him. So he needs to elevate. I'm not gonna say he's like Roman. He's very similar to Gunther. You don't want someone to just get the title because they were just so dominant and no one could beat him. No, you need to elevate someone. You know what I'm saying? So the fact that he's going to lose his title before he gets drafted, I really love this. And Trick Williams is the perfect candidate for that. This was a great episode. This was a really great episode. The first episode after Stand and Deliver, this was amazing. Really love everything that happened. But let me know what you guys thought. Leave your thoughts, opinions. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. But yeah, that's it.